All right, in news just coming in, India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri visited Beijing on 26th and 27th of January for a meeting of the Foreign Secretary Vice Foreign Minister mechanism between India and China. The two sides reviewed the state of India-China bilateral relations comprehensively, and they agreed to take certain people-centric steps to stabilize and rebuild the ties. The two sides decided to resume the Kalash Mansarovar Yatra in the summer of 2025. They agreed to hold an early meeting of the India-China expert-level mechanism to discuss resumption of provision of hydrological data and other cooperation pertaining to trans-border rivers. The two sides agreed to take appropriate measures to further promote and facilitate people-to-people exchanges. They agreed in principle to resume direct air services between the two countries. The two sides also recognized that 2025 being the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between India and China, the two sides will conduct a number of commemorative activities to mark this anniversary. The two sides also took stock of the extant mechanisms for functional exchanges. All right, joining me for more is my colleague Jessica Taneja, who is joining us on the phone line from New Delhi. Jessica, talk to us more about the optics and outcomes from these talks.
Well, these are very important outcomes, Ramesh, as you've already read out the salient features of the takeaways of the meeting between India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, who had reached Beijing on the 25th, and now towards the end of his visit to Beijing, when he met the member of the Politburo as well as the Foreign Minister of China, Wang Yi, and also called upon the Vice Foreign Minister as well. So quite significant in a sense, where there were talks about the resumption of the Kalash Mansarovar Yatra, but also important to note that there are still certain technical modalities that will have to be worked out, certain frameworks to be set up in order to how to execute this, especially when it comes to connecting, the trade ties as well as resumption of commercial flights, or whether it be the Kalash Mansarovar Yatra or not so long ago China's decision to build the world's largest dam, which of course includes the Brahmaputra, the Yarlung Tsampo River for China. So all of those technicalities have been discussed to sort of bring both the nations to a path where there are multiple mechanisms, starting with, if you recall, before Prime Minister's visit to Kazan, where the groundwork was made for a potential a bilateral meeting between the two leaders, to then special representative talks. And prior to that were a disengagement agreement. So a lot of work has been done to sort of facilitate the process of how the two countries can move and enhance their bilateral relationship forward, while also carefully examining the current circumstances wherein both nations find themselves in. So it is in fact interesting to see and to point out that while we talk about the resumption of the Kalash Mansarovar Yatra and also resumption of commercial flights, both of them will be looked at by special teams and frameworks that will be set up to work out the technicalities. The details of that haven't been given so far, because those mechanisms will be put in place to facilitate this. But yes, from this readout, one can be certain that there is a path forward, that is a movement when it comes to India-China cooperation, so to say, or also to move forward after what we saw in 2020 to now. But then again, when it comes to India and China, there are also certain, as I said, moments where there is a certain trust deficit. And of course, a lot of things are done in a sense where it is mutually beneficial to both, especially keeping the border sensitivities in mind. And that is perhaps where it all begins with. And somehow, from the Indian side, there has to be peace and tranquility at the border, and the rest, of course, will have mechanisms to follow up and to execute.
Taneja, they're reporting on the Foreign Secretary's talks in Beijing. Jessica, we're getting some more news as we speak, that of a phone call between the leaders of India and the US. Let me read out from the Indian Prime Minister's tweet. He says, and I quote him here, "Delighted to speak with my dear friend, President Donald Trump. congratulated him on his historic second term. We are committed to a mutually beneficial and trusted partnership. We will work together for the welfare of our people and towards global peace, prosperity and security, unquote. So that was the news about the phone call between the leaders of India and the US. If I can quote the tweet again for the benefit of our viewers joining us. He says, "Delighted to speak with my dear friend President Donald Trump. Congratulated him on his historic second term. We are committed to a mutually beneficial and trusted partnership. We will work together for the welfare of our people and towards global peace, prosperity and security." Jessica, your thoughts very quickly on this phone conversation.
Well, Ramesh, ever since taking office, Donald Trump, you'd recall, the Prime Minister had congratulated him, and of course, representing India was Dr. S. Jaishankar at Trump's inauguration, and the first meeting of Marco Rubio as the Secretary of State after being voted in by the Senate was with the Quad foreign ministers. So the kind of significance that the Trump administration, or the importance that the Trump administration has shown towards India and its relationship with India, with potential readout of both of them from DC, as you recall, had mentioned on how important this strategic, comprehensive strategic partnership has been, especially India being central to the American Indo-Pacific policy and President Donald Trump's relation with Prime Minister Modi. So, of course, the telephonic conversation does seem to indicate that the two leaders enjoy that bonhomie and perhaps a relationship, a functional relationship that will continue to enhance bilateral trade between the United States as it continues to be our largest trading partner. And, of course, Donald Trump now at the helm of affairs for the second term, and the Prime Minister has already had opportunities to engage with him not only on state visits but also on various multilateral events as well.
Right. So as Jessica Taneja is reporting there, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi has just finished a telephone conversation with the US President Donald Trump.